Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with Bretonnia, going to be taking on the High Elves. There's a whole bunch of Vanguard shenanigans with Shadow Walkers, hence the reason why these mounted yeomen are currently getting absolutely shredded. Let's get to the army compositions. So against the High Elves, obviously, with Tempest, you probably don't want to bring a Flying Lord. So I've got Prophetess Lore of Life on a horse here, just to make her nice and cheap, one of the cheapest Lord options, and also gives you your Caster and Lord in one. Earthblood and Regrowth, of course. We've also got a Paladin to protect and also give her that Guardian aura if need be. One Blessed Field Trebuchet. The magic damage and extra missile damage is pretty decent against the High Elves. I'm still not completely sold on Trebs, but anyway. Front line is 5 peasant mobs, so they're mostly just here to be speed bumps. And then we've got, of course, a whole smattering of heavy cavalry, Grail Knights on each flank. We've also got the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, 3 units of Knights of the Realm, including the Knights of the Lion-Hearted, and then also the Companions of Quenelle. So, for my opponent's build, he's got Alathanar leading these Shadow Walkers, very thematically, of course. Shadow Walkers, 4 of them. He's got some Dragon Princes here, supported by a Mage Lore of Shadows. 3 units of Spearmen and a Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. He's also got some Illyrian Reavers here and more Illyrian Reavers hidden over on the far side. So without further ado, let's get the battle into full gear. I'm a little bit late to react here, but I figure, hey, you know, we can probably just run at the face of these Shadow Warriors, but unfortunately I'm not going to react quick enough before they actually take out this Trebuchet here. And the Trebuchet, I've noticed, suffers from a similar issue that a lot of the Skaven artillery pieces do, which is that because the artillery itself has such a big hitbox, it's very easy for it to get hit repeatedly by missiles especially, and just get taken down. So you can see one of the Trebuchets already actually down, the other one goes down, and the crew gets routed off. So that Trebuchet did have a few chevrons as well before the start of the battle, about 1,000 gold total wasted investment there, but you can see the Tuxedo Princes clashing with the Grail Knights in the battle of the 2 most beautiful units. I think there's an enfeebling foe on the Grail Knights, so they took a ton of damage there and weren't able to do much damage in return. Granted, we do have the regrowth on there, giving that extra physical resistance and to make sure that they stay healed up and in the fight. Knights Lion-Hearted getting a little bit of an awkward non-charge there into the side, but now that enfeebling foe is worn off, the Dragon Princes will start to lose pretty hard there. You can see we have been able to compromise a lot of the Shadow Warriors, obviously, since they were vanguarded up without any support, which is extremely risky against Bretonnia. You know, against a lot of other factions that actually could work quite well, but obviously Bretonnia with their mass heavy cavalry is just going to be able to ride you down. So looks like an enfeebling foe going down there on the Knights of the Lion-Hearted. The Grail Knights did get routed off there, but they are still quite a few of them left. They should be coming back. That is going to allow these Knights of the Realm to get in here with a nice side charge. They'll be able to take out most of these Illyrian Reavers, especially, and even the Dragon Princes. They're just facing overwhelming numbers of Knights of the Realm, and of course Knights of the Realm do have an anti-large bonus as well of 10? 10, yeah, so it'll be pretty decent. Since there's not really any threat to my Prophetess, I'm going to go ahead and run the Paladin forward and try and snipe this this Shadow Mage here. You can see, meanwhile, on the low ground, just raffle stomping going down. The Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis have pulled over and are unfortunately battling Spearmen, which is obviously not great, but we've been able to take down most of the Shadow Walkers, which, I mean, obviously that's a significant investment. Each one of them is 1,100 points, so it's really, really rough for my opponent. You can see the Mage there does get routed off. We're able to finish off the majority of my opponent's heavy cavalry, and with that, the balance power is going to start to shift very decisively in my favor, as there's just not enough stopping power left for the High Elves to deal with all these shock cavalry. So definitely a fun thematic build for my opponent. Not necessarily super competitive, especially against Bretonnia, which can just overwhelm you with such heavy cavalry. Really risky to go with a heavy vanguard force like that, but against other factions I could see that working out okay. Maybe against someone like the Skaven, or I'm trying to think of who else maybe may not have the greatest mobility and also has relatively low armor, because of course Shadow Walkers are a non-armor piercing missile unit. They do have poison and pretty decent AP at 5, but still against unarmored factions, they can do a ton of work, but even still, they're doing some pretty decent damage, these Companions of Quenelle. The poison is quite nice. It's one of the only units, I think, with poison damage on the High Elf roster, so, you know, 1 or 2 of them can be pretty decent. 4 is a very risky investment, just because you're going to be having to spend a lot of time microing them to keep them safe, and, you know, if you get like 1 or 2 good charges from a unit of cav, will make them more or less combat ineffective, so... yeah, rough time for the High Elves, but the Shadow King and his Shadow Walkers here not having the best time, getting ridden down by the infantry boys here. We'll just soak up some more cinematics, as for all intents and purposes the battle is pretty much over. It's just a matter of finishing off the leadership of the High Elves here. Not sure where Elthanar got over to. I guess he's just kind of chilling there. But, yeah, Shadow Walkers being ridden down by Knights of the Lion-Hearted. Companions of Quenelle get back and finally shut down this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Looks like my opponent, or I'm actually throwing down a Regrowth, I think. Yep, Regrowth on those Companions of Quenelle. Try and get them healed up and, you know, staying in the fight. And we did manage to get the Trebuchet back online. The crew did come back from routing, and man, the one Trebuchet that's left, so it's been firing away, you know, it's holy water. We don't really have that many great targets to shoot at, but hopefully we can make some okay contact here with these spearmen. Ooh, looks like it actually took out one of those knights. That's, yeah, that's going to be an execution for one of those peasants. But anyway, Elthanar also shooting in here, taking out a couple of Grail Knights with each shot. Elthanar, you know, definitely not the most competitive lord choice, I don't think, in any matchup, but he can be fun in certain matchups. But at this point, he's running from that Paladin. The Paladin's just coming in all angry, you know, full of chivalry, gonna come in, get a nice thrust into Elthanar's back, do some really good damage. Elthanar, he does have good melee defense, but doesn't have the greatest armor, so he's pretty squishy, especially when a Paladin's applying that 70 charge bonus that he has, which is just massive. But with Elthanar's leadership gone, the rest of the High Elves give up the fight, and that is game. Very well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Yeah, like I said, it was just super risky vanguarding that heavy force of Shadow Walkers right at the beginning. He was able to get some good damage done. You know, he took out the Trebuchet pretty much instantly, but then, you know, once I unleashed the wave of heavy cavalry, he just didn't have enough nearby to support. So, you know, something to consider. I do think that the 1 or 2 Shadow Walkers probably could be pretty decent against Bretonnia. You know, you can snipe out their peasant units, you can apply poison, and, you know, so you can slow down opposing heavy cavalry so that once they try and pull away, you know, they're not able to. Lore of Shadows also a pretty decent pick. The Enfeebling Foe and the Melkos Mystifying Miasma, both pretty good here, as well as Occam's Mind Razor, of course, to bypass the physical resistance of the Grail level units. But, yeah. For the rest of my opponent's army, Dragon Princes will do decently here, especially with that Enfeebling Foe. They were able to win against that unit of Grail Knights, which normally that engagement goes pretty decisively against them. Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower was able to do okay here, get some okay shots against the heavy cavalry. I really had a hard time getting back there until the late game, so it was able to use quite a bit of its ammo. But yeah, I would probably, if I were my opponent, cut a couple of these Shadow Walkers, maybe just bring 1 or 2 Shadow Walkers against Bretonnia at least, and go with a bit more meat to chew on. Maybe like another unit of Dragon Princes, maybe just more, you know, Spearmen, or maybe a Phoenix Guard or 2. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can go with that, but more and more I'm liking the Prophetess as kind of a cheap Lord option. I've been experimenting a lot recently with just cheap Lord options. Prophetess, you know, Archlector, those sorts of guys, they seem to do pretty decently because they allow you to bring such a wide army. It's one of the things that makes Heinrich Kemmler super cost effective as well. So let's go ahead and just show you guys some examples. The Life Prophetess, in the right situation, I think can be one of those good cheap lords for the Bretonnians. Some other good options, examples would be for the Vampire Counts, of course. Heinrich Kemmler, if you strip him down, he's pretty cheap as well. The Master Necromancer, of course, is the master of being super cheap. I mean, with a standard loadout of what I would bring, only 848 points on foot, 948 on a Barded Nightmare, so he's pretty cheap as well. Of course, I mentioned the Archlector already. For the Empire, you know, he caps out at his most expensive if you bring everything in 2,000. So, I mean, typically in a battle you would probably strip down some of these abilities, 1470 or, you know, 1370, give or take, probably in the guise I would bring him in. In terms of other good cheap lord options, kind of cheap generic lord options. I'm trying to think of some others. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What are your favorite generic cheap lord options? I know I recently watched a video on Turin's channel where someone had brought like a Marauder Chieftain, just a regular old Marauder Chieftain with nothing on him, and man, he's 800 points with nothing on him on foot, so that is super cheap as well. Granted, he's only got 50 armor. He's a pretty squishy character overall. I don't know that I would necessarily want my general to be this squishy, but it does allow you to bring a super wide army, and I think that's really the key here, is that, you know, because your lord's so cheap, you can just throw more units on the table. I mean, don't get me wrong, legendary lords are very powerful and certainly the way to go in many different matchups, but I think that cheap generic lords definitely have their place as well, depending on your play style. It can be very, very useful, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Who are your favorite cheap generic lords? You know, do you have any that are super, super good? I know, like for the greenskins, for example, the Gabo War Boss is one of the better options with his Tormentor Sword, of course. He's also got the Spite of the Bad Moon, which is another great ability. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Who are your favorite generic lords that are nice and cheap? Look forward to seeing your comments. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.